The Men in Black in Today World, June 5, 2019. As someone who regularly investigates and writes about the Men in Black phenomena, one of the questions I often asked goes like this: "Oh, you still get reports of the Men in Black?" The short answer is yes. And, lot. There's no doubt at all that within the world of ufology, the MIB phenomenon was at its height from the 1950s to the 1970s. That does not mean, however, that reports of the Men in Black are no more, or are on a decline. Indeed, I regularly receive reports of the MIB, the vast majority of them from very recent times. That probably due to the fact that I have written 4 books on the Men in Black and 1 on the Women in Black. In other words, when people have had an encounter with the MIB, they seek out someone who can hopefully help them understand what happened and what they encountered. Someone like me. I'm sure that it very much the same with people who have come across a crop circle. They look for a circle researcher for the answers and not an MIB investigator. And it the same with the black-eyed children. If you seen one, you likely to contact an expert on the topic, like David Weatherly. Which brings us back to those recent cases of the Men in Black. Here one of hundreds from the last decade that have come my way. In February 2016, an Englishman named Liam contacted me and said, "I bought your book The Real Men in Black off of Amazon a while ago and would like to share an event that happened to me in 2011. This was before I had read the book or heard about the more sinister alien-type MIB you describe, but had heard of the government G-men gathering UFO reports from witnesses. Hear my experience. It might not be anything relevant, but I found it quite interesting." Liam continued, "T was either late July or early August and I was on holiday in Weymouth. This was days before the London riots of that year, staying with my parents in a rented accommodation at Whitehead Drive. The room I was in had a lovely view of the bay and Chesil Beach. You could see Portland in the distance. As the view was nice and the weather was hot, I would always leave the window open for air and to admire the view. I had a laptop set up on the desk near the window so could look out easily. One evening I kept getting the eerie feeling of being watched. I would look out the window and not see anything of note. The sun was beginning to fade out at this point. I would guess it was about 5-7 p.m. sort of time, but you could still see the road and the beach easily. Very time I went back to using the laptop, I would again get this horrible feeling of unease and would look back out of the window. Eventually I spotted what appeared to be a man almost comically hidden behind a road sign. He was stood so half of his face was visible from the side of the sign but the other half obscured. His legs were visible underneath the sign. However, man was I guess about 200 yards from my window, but I could make out he was wearing a full dark suit, which was very odd considering it was a warm summer and everyone else nearby was wearing shorts and t-shirts. He also had a black hat on, I guess either a fedora or a bowler hat, but it was hard to make out the exact shape at the distance. He didn't appear to be staring at me but rather straight down the carriageway. His back was to Portland so he was facing towards Weymouth. I watched him for a good few minutes and he stood completely motionless, staring forward. The weird thing was none of the cars driving past seemed to slow at all as they passed him. At this point I quickly ran into another room to grab some binoculars and went back into the bedroom and he had vanished. I could only have been gone for 30-60 seconds max and his position would be hard to get away from unless he jumped into the harbor or got into a car. However, the flow of traffic meant that it would be very difficult to get a car to stop, pick him up and start again without causing horns to blare from other drivers. As I said, it could be nothing of note at all, but after reading your book and listening to several radio shows where the Men in Black were discussed, it seems very similar to one of those events. Thanks for reading, Liam. No doubt, reports of modern-day MIB encounters will continue to reach me.